And good evening. My name is Evan Weiner. My background is radio and TV, and thank Anna for inviting me to the library to speak tonight. We were supposed to be live in the library about 10 days ago, whatever that was. My background is radio. I mean, my background really is radio. Back in 1971, September of 1971, I was in 11th grade, and I was at Spring Valley High School. That's in Rockland County, in Muncie, New York, not Spring Valley, off Route 59. And I had a teacher by the name of Joe Dionisio. Still communicate with Joe 49 years later. He still doesn't know my name. He called everybody student. And he points at me, student, student, student. Yes. He said, you got a good voice. How would you like to be in radio? In radio the worst way possible. And I was 15 years old. And I was on a show called Tiger Talk. It was about Spring Valley High School. It was on WRKL radio, 910 on your radio dial, which you probably got up there in Dutchess. It's all Polish now at 9:10 a.m. And we were on every Tuesday at 3:45 in the afternoon with 15 minutes of something called Tiger Talk, which was horrible. Me, Eugene Delicio, Doris Ham, and a host of others that came through. And Gene and I were the only two that survived. And that was my start in radio. Joe D also was instrumental in getting me involved with the Nyack Journal News, where I eventually covered Little League and horse racing for them. And the horse racing was calling Yonkers Raceway on Saturday night and getting the results so we could put it in the paper. And that was 1973. And also the Bergen Record, which I did talk about, or sent them in Spring Valley High School News. And I did 3 stints at the Bergen Record, in high school, after college for a little while. And at the turn of the century, I came back there writing op-ed pieces. But I was at WGRC starting in 1978, right after Christmas. Steve North hired me and he said, you're going to do news and you got to work weekends. That's no problem. And it turned out pretty well for me initially because Rockland Community College was running a speaker series. So right off the bat, I got to talk to Ralph Nader, Julian Bond, and in March of 1978, Steve North, my news director, said the Rockland County Democrats are hosting a fundraiser, and anybody who's part of the New York Democratic Party in 1978 was going to be there. And so he sent me out. I got this big afro at this point. Yeah, I looked 21 years old. I was a year ahead in college. And so he sends me, and I begin to talk to people. Some of the people that walked in, you might know one of them, Jerome Nadler, Jerry Nadler. He was an obscure assemblyman in those days. Hugh Carey, he was running for governor. And Mario Cuomo was running for lieutenant governor with his teenage son, Andrew, there, along with his little son, Chris. 2 of them were there with Matilda. And there were others like Senator Daniel Patrick Moynihan, who I have to say, all these years later, I don't think I ever interviewed him where he wasn't drunk. But that was me. And then there was this tall guy. This tall guy looked like he should have been a movie star. But he has this sandy, brown, grayish hair. And he walks up to me, he's a tall guy, and says to me, I like you. I like you. But I knew who he was because I watched Batman, and he was the mayor of Gotham City. He was John Lindsay, and John Lindsay gave me my first scoop in the business. Told me he was running for the Senate, New York State in 1980. So I run back to my 500-watt station, WGRC, file it there, file it with the Associated Press, Marlene Egg, file it with United Press International, Randy Berlage. I get a call from WNEW Radio in New York, 50,000 watts of Nat King Cole and Frank Sinatra, William B. Williams and Peggy Lee and Ella Fitzgerald, Jerry Vale. And Julius LaRosa was a disc jockey there then. And they said, it was Henry Marcotte. He says, can you do that story for us? I said, yeah. And I said, how much are you gonna pay? He said, $10, sold. And here I am, 21 years old, and I'm a stringer for WNEW in New York, 50,000 watts with Sam Hall and Mike Eisgrau and all these other people. And working at the 500-watt radio station, WGRC, full-time, and writing for a newspaper, too, at that point. So I was busy. And WNEW, of course, played the American Songbook, and we played something called Music of Your Life, which is the Great American Songbook. But on Sunday at 12 o'clock, we did radio, 2 hours of old-time radio, Theater of the Imagination. And I knew who Jack Benny was, and I knew who Burns and Allen were. And Fred Allen and Allen's Alley, I didn't really know who they were. I heard the name, but I didn't know who they were. And I started listening to this stuff along with the serials. I said, this stuff's pretty good. It's really, really good. And even though it was 40 years since the original broadcast, it's really good. And it got me to looking into old-time radio. I'm in radio anyway. I'm doing news for one station and stringing for UPI and AP and WNEW at that time and writing for a newspaper, 21. And I'm listening to this stuff, and it is great stuff. Now, radio was a big deal at one time in this country. Now, who buys radios? But one time, radio was a big deal. And the biggest show of all in the history of radio, or the most memorable show back then, and maybe to this day, but I doubt it, was Orson Welles' Mercury Theater. And it is Gate Night, or Devil's Night, whatever you call it, the night before Halloween in 1938. And Orson Welles decides he is going to do a show, scary show, for the Mercury Arts Theater. And he gets the H.G. Wells 1898 book, which Anna probably has in the library, I would hope, War of the Worlds, and he adopts it to radio, adapts it as an adaptation to radio. And Wells, this was not an original idea. He ripped off the idea from BBC in 1926 that did the same thing. A radio drama with radio in the background. His radio drama, of course, is The Martians Are Landing on Earth. And he's got this all planned out. He's going to have the, hang on, gotta get all these people admitted into the room, which I just did. Anyway, getting back to Orson Welles. So he puts this radio show on, and let's see, okay, hopefully that'll do that. So he puts this radio show on. It's basically, sounds like a radio show you might hear on Saturday night. A big band show, music show, interspersed with commercials. And most people didn't hear this show when it started because they were listening to Charlie McCarthy, Mortimer Snerd, and the ventriloquist Edgar Bergen. And that was on NBC. And that show ended a half hour into the Wells show. And yep. So anyway, Wells conceived of this idea that he should have a radio show. He should have a radio show. And it would be a broadcast in such a manner that a crisis would seem to be happening. Hang on one second. Hold on one second here. We're gonna here, and we're gonna mute everybody. Okay. Hopefully that works. Okay. Yeah, we got somebody who's playing. Okay, we have been bombed, haven't we? So why don't we mute all?
I think we have.
Yes, mute all. And hang on one second here. Yeah, we have been bombed here. So why don't we start this all over again?
Esto es un perreo, hueputa.
Okay.